Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome to the video. I hope your day is going great. I am super hyped right now because once again, we got the juice. It's been like 5 days in a row where the juice is just insane. Today, we are talking about the Boston Uprising because holy crap, their dirty laundry just got exposed. And the prime target is Huck, the president of gaming over there at Boston Uprising. So a report was done today by Benchmob and Yiska, two people who are definitely involved in the community and have had some good work in the past. Benchmob, his track record is pretty much 100%. I haven't seen anything that he has been wrong with. As for Yiska, I know he's been involved in the community doing podcasts, stuff like that. I don't know how much writing or journalism or leaking he's done, but the fact that he tied this together with Benchmob is definitely credible. So we're going to be taking a look at their article, which just completely blasts Huck and the Boston Uprising during Season 1, noting that there were crazy incidents where players were banned from the facility from practicing. This means that certain players were not even allowed to go to practice because the staff told them they were too emotional, they were too crazy, they were raging too much, and it just can't be tolerated. You're banned. There's no showing up to practice for you. And you might think, oh my god, this is insane. Which it is, but there's even more, and it gets even more insane, guys. Holy crap. And also, players who were starters on this team just refused to practice for days on end, specifically in Stage 4. We had players just leaving the facility and saying, I'm not showing up for practice, I don't want to play, our team sucks, trade me, I'm done here. As well as that, Huck is also being accused of making some of his fellow staff members cry under pressure multiple times during the season. And it doesn't stop there, guys. Boston Uprising is also being accused of basically holding their players hostage with their buyouts. So we have players like Striker, who performed insane in Season 1, and other teams, of course, we need a Tracer player. We need somebody who's solid at Widowmaker, Junkrat. It would make sense to reach out to Boston and say, hey, are you willing to sell us Striker? Or are you willing to trade him? And Boston Uprising, they're like, yeah, sure we are. Here, you want to trial him? Then they trial him, and that team is like, yeah, we want to get him. How much do you want for him? Or what would you like for him? And Boston Uprising in response are like, yeah, so you're going to need to pay about $300K for a buyout. You're going to have to pay for a salary, whole bunch of moving fees, stuff like this. It's going to cost you. And then that team is like, whoa, $300K plus a salary? We can't afford that. So Striker now is just stuck with the Boston Uprising, even though he's demanding a trade. So it's just crazy, guys. We're going to go more in depth on all of these details, taking a look at this article. I will also be giving my opinion on it, and from sources of mine, I will be telling you guys some of it is true. Actually, most of it really is true. There's one specific detail about it that was not true, which I will be telling you guys what detail exactly was wrong. It wasn't nothing major. For the most part, this article really is accurate, and I had all this information, and I wanted to share it, but the reason I didn't was I was scared for the players. This article kind of aimed it more at Huck, which Huck really should be held accountable, but for the players at a certain point, like, they were just uncontrollable, and it was a horrible situation for literally everybody involved, and I just didn't know what to report. I didn't want to hurt everyone's career and just ruin these players for their futures. Like, they'll learn from this. They really will. I fully trust that. I'll talk about it at the end of the video, exactly why I didn't want to expose everything, and I still do have more information about this situation, so stay tuned for the end of the video about that. There's just so much juice to be covered today, guys. I'm probably gonna have to make 2 videos. I'll drop this one tonight, and then tomorrow morning you can expect another one. So tomorrow is going to be a double upload. That's right, guys. Double uploads might be coming back. Drop a like and subscribe if you guys love the double uploads. You want to stay updated on anything and everything Overwatch League, whether it's a new player getting signed, whether it's crazy drama like this. You will always stay updated every single day. Turn post notifications on, and now without further ado, let's jump straight into this video. So let's go ahead and jump straight into this article. I'll read pieces from it, and then I'll give my response to it and pretty much tell you guys whether it's accurate from my sources or not. Let's start off with the very beginning. Information provided to VP Esports suggested that Chris Huck Loringer, Boston Uprising's president of gaming, was responsible for developing a divided team infrastructure by attempting to separate the Korean and non-Korean players, subsequently assign instructional and player management responsibilities to different staff members. So this is true. The team was sort of divided into cliques, which probably wasn't the best idea, but at the time, it wasn't that awful of one. Because remember, it is the inaugural season, and the Boston Uprising are one of the only and first mixed teams where you have Korean and Western players, so there's a divide when it comes to language. So remember, again, everything is experimental at this point, and there's no proven way on how to coach these teams, so Huck tried something, it didn't work, that's his fault. And Huck probably thought at the time it would be easier to coach them if we just kept them kind of separated and in their own cliques, which in the end was a horrible idea, and it is what snowballed everything that happened here. Moving on to the next thing. Eventually, Huck would try to rectify an attempt to unify the team, but at the time, head coach Krusty would still have to regularly pull the Korean players aside to try to calm down the situation that had fired up. As Krusty left for the San Francisco Shock after the third stage, the team was left with Gamsu, their main tank player, to translate, and the situation escalated further. A translator was only brought in midway through the fourth stage. So I can confirm that yes, Gamsu was translating stuff, and after Krusty left, the team didn't have a full-time translator in the beginning of stage 4. They did eventually get one midway through. This is accurate as well. Moving on to the next, and this one is a very big thing. Off-tank player Kelios, said to be upset with the circumstances and his role within the team, would frequently disrupt practice and berate the coaching staff. As a result, the team management reportedly banned him from the practice facility altogether. Sources also noted that Stryker left the practice room out of frustration during active scrim blocks, repeatedly damaged computer peripherals, and later requested a transfer from the team. Many team members were reportedly unhappy with Stryker, and the sources stated that the player rage quit at least a scrim per week, and even told Huck that he refuses to play for the team next season. Now again, this is 100% accurate, and it may be hard to believe, but it is true, guys. Kelios was banned from the facility because he literally just couldn't stay calm. He was always causing drama, he was always fighting with coaches, players, he was just super unhappy with the situation he was in, which, you know, I mean, it sucks to be a sub, and of course, the team environment wasn't the best, the team environment was trash. So I would understand why somebody would freak out and lose control of their emotions, but at a certain point, he just has to control it, especially after you get banned from the facility. Now, moving on to Stryker. This one's big because Stryker was a huge part of Boston Uprising's success in Season 1. Again, I can confirm that this is accurate. He did rage quit scrims all the time. He broke peripherals, he raged all the time, mouses, keyboards, headsets, they were crushed, he would scream in frustration, and again, he would quit scrim blocks. I have footage, and I hate to say this, and this is why, like, I didn't want to put this information out there, because Stryker's a great player, and I could see him becoming a world championship under the right team, under the right management and coaching staff, but the stuff that I was told, and the stuff I've received from this footage, shows that he was literally in scrims, walking into the enemy team, the other Overwatch League team, suiciding over and over until the scrim had to be canceled, leaving Boston Uprising and the enemy Overwatch League team they were scrimming without practice for either that day, that night, that week, whatever it was. It just happened so much. And he was just raging and screaming. And again, like, this happens. Players sometimes can't control their emotions, and I don't want to expose somebody and show this footage where I could end up ruining somebody's career. But now that, like, this whole entire thing is out there, and I have this footage, I could show it. I probably should, just to put more clarification on this whole topic and prove that Benchmob's report here is really accurate for the most part. There's just one slight detail that isn't accurate, which we'll eventually get into. But man, like, Stryker was out of control, and God help me, like, I thought he was I still think he's an amazing player, and he is. He's incredible. He proved it on the stage. You gotta control your emotions at a certain point. Huck may have divided the team. He may have been a terrible manager. He may have taken control over too many situations, but, like, you have to control your emotions at this point, and yeah, I mean, I'm gonna leave it at that. It's really hard to talk about this topic because, like, this is a player's career, but now that this stuff is out there, like, I don't know what to do. Leave me some advice down below, guys. It's a tough topic. It really is. Let's move on to the next thing. VP Esports also learned that Uprising players have been displeased with their contracts and more specifically with their salary figures. According to sources, most players have been earning wages that are very close to the league minimum, and Boston was allegedly one of the only teams from the first season that did not look to re-up or renegotiate salaries when it's returning players this summer, despite having made a league playoffs. I can also confirm this is true. Boston Uprising players did have low salaries for season 1, which, to be fair, a lot of players were unknown, and I think it was fair at the time. But after they do make the playoffs and have an incredible stage 3, they need to get salary bumps, specifically Striker, Gamsu. Note, those starters that played the entire season and proved that they are legends, stars in the league, deserve to get pay upgrades, 100%. Moving on to the next thing, the housing situation for the players was also described as inadequate, whereas 3 players were living in a 2-bedroom apartment with a mere room divider placed in the living area for an additional player. This should not be allowed. You might think, oh, it's not too bad, he got the room divider, but you gotta understand, players need their privacy, and when you're living in a 2-bedroom apartment with 3 people, and you're playing under a professional team in a professional league, you need to get your own room, you need to have your own space. You just don't want to be in this situation as a player. I can attest to this myself. If other teams have their own bedrooms and their own space, every team needs to. Moving on to the next, sources frequently pointed toward Huck's approach to management as the root of many internal team issues. On one occasion, and I can also say this is multiple occasions, a staff member was made to cry in front of the team after an abrasive Huck had verbally attacked them over a minor mistake. In response, the team asked Huck to take a step back during the midseason and give up more responsibilities to Krusty and Shake. So yeah, as you already heard, I can confirm this happened on multiple occasions. A staff member did cry because of Huck's abrasive behavior towards these minor mistakes that the staff members were making early on into the season. Let's move on now again. Huck granted Striker and other players the opportunity to trial elsewhere over the summer. However, when interested parties came forward to inquire about these buyout fees for Striker and others, Boston requested compensation in an excessive of 5 times the player's salary, which has potentially barred some from finding new opportunities. Other sources around the league confirmed that. In comparable situations, top performing players who carried similar price tags with respect to buyout fees typically received salary adjustments from their respective teams during or after the season. In other cases, teams allowed players to renegotiate their contracts altogether. This is in order to better reflect a player's perceived value. So yeah, they were pretty much held hostage, guys. Striker was not allowed to join any other team because Boston Uprising was greedy and asked for a whole bunch of money. $300,000, $200,000, $250,000, somewhere around that ballpark. I don't know the exact number, but as stated in the article, 5 times the amount of his salary, which is around 50 to 70K. So do the math yourself. You'll see that we sit around the 200, 300K ballpark for a buyout. Absolutely ridiculous and absolutely unfair to the players. There's no excuse here. Boston Uprising, they're pretty much scumbagging their players into low contracts to stick with them, even though some of them want to be traded or to leave the team. It's crazy, guys, and now let's move on to the last detail in this article that I want to cover, which is the one that isn't accurate. This has to do with mistakes. In another incident, it was alleged that Huck failed to notify player mistakes of the organization's decision to pass on his second-year team option. According to sources, Mistakes was very much under the impression that he was going to be retained by the team and that all signs pointed toward him being re-signed. However, the player only learned of his release via the Uprising's post on Twitter. Further, it was shared that Huck refused to compensate Mistakes for the price of his plane ticket home. Huck also gave Mistakes 2 to 3 weeks to vacate his apartment and either return home or find an alternate living arrangement. So, all of this is true besides that one part about his flight back home. Huck and the Boston Uprising indeed did cover that fee. They paid for his ticket back home, but everything else was true. They gave him 3 weeks to vacate, and he did think he was going to be re-signed and eventually learned about him being dropped through a Twitter post. So yeah, pretty scummy still. Thank God they paid for his ticket back home. But overall, man, like this is just such a mess. Boston Uprising, season 1. What a absolute disaster, but also incredible. Absolutely incredible, the fact that these guys made it as far as they did and almost even beat the finalist, the Philadelphia Fusion. They went all the way down to the wire. Boston Uprising very well could have been in the grand finals of this year while they went through all of this stuff. They also had a perfect stage going 10-0. The stuff these players and team accomplished throughout all of this drama, craziness, Dream Casper as well. It's incredible that they made it that far. Now that doesn't make any of this right, how these players or the management acted. Everybody, I guess, now should be held accountable that the information is out there. It's unfortunate. the reason I didn't want to release this stuff is, again, I didn't want to ruin anyone's career, and I felt like I had the potential of doing that. And I just felt like since so many different people were involved in this, there was no reason to go out. It wasn't like one specific person screwing things up. It was more so just like everybody making a bunch of mistakes, management, players, and it was an absolute mess, guys. I don't know what to make of this right now. I went through this whole entire article. I gave the 100% information that I knew was true from my sources. I can confirm everything I said in this was true. And that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you for watching the video. If you want to stay updated on everything, be sure to drop a like. That's going to be it, though, for me, guys. Thank you for watching. I'm out of here. Peace.